Welcome, everyone. I'm Nico, and as always, I'm joined by the brilliant Natasha. Today, we're tackling a heavy but necessary topic Donald Trump, and why it was such a dangerous mistake not to impeach and bar him from holding any political office in the future. Natasha, where do we even start with this one?
Thanks, Nico. This topic is so important, especially considering the lasting impact Trump has had on American politics. Failing to impeach him and bar him from running again wasn't just a missed opportunity, it was a serious threat to the stability of democracy in the United States. We're talking about a man who used his platform to incite an insurrection and spread dangerous lies. The implications are huge.
Absolutely. Let's take a step back and talk about why impeachment was necessary in the first place. Trump's actions during his presidency, whether it was attempting to coerce a foreign government, to investigate a political rival, or inciting the January 6th insurrection, were blatant abuses of power. The fact that he wasn't held accountable in a meaningful way is mind-blowing.
Right, Nico. His behavior on January 6th alone should have been enough to disqualify him from ever holding office again. He didn't just challenge the election results. He weaponized his supporters, feeding them lies about a stolen election, and then essentially directed them to storm the Capitol. His speech that day, telling them to fight like hell, or they wouldn't have a country anymore, was incendiary and dangerous.
And let's be real. People were hurt, people died, and the very foundations of American democracy were shaken. This wasn't some peaceful protest. It was an insurrection fueled by Trump's refusal to accept reality and his willingness to say whatever it took to stay in power.
And here's the kicker. Not convicting him in the Senate sent a message that presidents can incite violence and face no real consequences. That's terrifying. It opens the door for future leaders to think they can cross similar lines and get away with it.
Exactly. And the fact that he's allowed to run again in 2024 as a convicted felon is just baffling. We're talking about someone who has shown no remorse, no understanding of the damage he's done. Instead, he's doubled down, continuing to push the same lies that incited violence in the first place. And now, with these ongoing legal battles, he's using his campaign as a shield, framing himself as a victim of a political witch hunt.
That's what's so dangerous, Nico. He's creating this narrative that any accountability, whether it's legal or political, is part of some grand conspiracy against him and his supporters. It's a tactic that further divides the country and delegitimizes the rule of law. And his base, which is still incredibly loyal, is buying it hook, line, and sinker.
It's a terrifying cycle. His lies about election fraud have already led to an insurrection. And now, every indictment, every investigation, he spins into another proof point that he's being persecuted. It's all about keeping his supporters enraged and mobilized. This kind of rhetoric isn't just dangerous. It's a ticking time bomb.
And the damage isn't limited to his base. We're seeing the ripple effects in the entire political landscape. Republican lawmakers are either echoing his baseless claims of migrants in Ohio eating pets, calling for violence in the event that he loses the 2024 election, or espousing racist rhetoric about the nationality and race of Kamala Harris during the Black Journalists Association convention. They are staying silent out of fear of losing his supporters. It's created this toxic environment where loyalty to Trump outweighs loyalty to the Constitution.
It's like we're living in an alternate reality. And by not barring him from running again, we're essentially saying that it's okay for someone with no regard for democratic norms, someone willing to incite violence for personal gain, to hold the highest office in the land again.
And the implications go beyond just Trump. It's about the future of the presidency itself. If the precedent is that a president can abuse power, incite violence, and face no real consequences, what does that mean for future leaders? It's a recipe for authoritarianism.
And it's not just about future leaders either. We're seeing an increase in political violence, threats against elected officials, and a deep mistrust of government institutions. This didn't happen in a vacuum. Trump's rhetoric and his refusal to accept the election results have emboldened extremists and normalized political violence.
The scary part is that Trump's influence is still growing. The longer he remains a viable political figure, the more entrenched this division becomes. It's not just about winning an election anymore. It's about a fundamental battle over truth and reality. And he's using this chaos to his advantage.
That's why it's so frustrating that the Senate didn't convict him. This wasn't just about punishing Trump. It was about protecting the integrity of the presidency and the safety of the country. Allowing him to run again is like playing with fire. We've seen the damage he can do. Why risk it again?
And now we're facing the very real possibility of another Trump presidency. Imagine what he could do with a second term, knowing that he's essentially untouchable. The lack of consequences has only made him more dangerous. His focus wouldn't be on serving the country, it would be on revenge and self-preservation.
And that's the terrifying part, Natasha. He's already shown he's willing to do anything to avoid accountability. If he gets back into office, We're looking at an administration driven by personal vendettas and an utter disregard for the rule of law.
So where do we go from here, Nico? It feels like we're on this precipice, and the next few years could determine the future of American democracy.
I think it starts with accountability. Whether that's through the legal system or public opinion, we have to keep calling out the lies, holding those who spread them accountable, and supporting leaders who are willing to stand up for democratic values, even when it's unpopular.
Absolutely. And as citizens, we need to stay engaged, informed, and vigilant. Democracy isn't a given, it's something we have to actively protect. This fight is far from over.
Well said, Natasha. Thanks to everyone for joining us today on the show. If you found this conversation valuable, please share it, leave a review, and let us know your thoughts. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay safe.
Take care, everyone.